Do you believe in Brexit? Forth upon a time, the Brexit Elf went in search of the true Brexit. He'd been over the moon all those years ago when the British people had voted to leave the EU. He looked forward to an early and complete departure. He expected the creation of a land of freedom. He looked forward to wise government from a newly independent and powerful parliament. He knew that British people thought votes mattered. It never occurred to him and his friends that many of the Remainers in powerful positions would try to stop the will of the people. He'd been over the moon for a second time, when during a wet and cold December in 2019, the people once again made clear they meant it. They told their wicked old parliament that had fought them and tried to block Brexit that they really, really meant it. The people voted again to get Brexit done. They said to the Remain parliamentarians, "You sit on a throne of lies. We're going to take many of you off those thrones, replacing you with those who will implement our vision." It's true that after that election, some things did change a bit. The leader of the opposition, who had fought pugnaciously against Brexit in the old Parliament, said he now accepted it. Still did not stop him taking the EU's side in any remaining negotiation. And of course, he still wants to tie us into most of what we thought we'd left. After more wrangling and disagreeable negotiations with a rattled EU, the Elf was over the moon again in January 2021. The UK had eventually left the EU. The people should be free at last. The Parliament and government, once again, after 50 years of colonial status, could decide on their own laws and taxes, their own budgets and policies, responding to the will of the people. So why, one Christmas later, did the Brexit Elf feel he had once again to travel the dark and largely empty, COVID-cleared corridors of Whitehall in search of the true Brexit? The problem was that whilst we'd left the EU, practically every EU law remained in place. Despite departing, the EU's 20% value-added tax was still on almost everything the EU had placed it on. We had the freedom to set up free ports, but they'd still not come to pass. We should take control of our fishery, yet somehow it's still not in our grasp. We could replace the common agricultural policy, yet much of it remained, and some were unhappy with the sketched replacement, which did not seem to help UK farmers. Our Brexit Elf, as always, was positive, cheery, determined to see it through. He was sure there was a true Brexit that would be good news. He was equally sure we still did not have it. So he decided to start his pilgrimage at the Cabinet Office, where much of the Brexit negotiating was still being conducted. He politely introduced himself to the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, a reassuringly old title that linked today to an age when our government was truly independent. He asked the Chancellor if he believed in Brexit. "Of course," said the Chancellor. "Like you, I voted for it. I had to be brave to do that, as the government I was in at the time did not want it." Reassured, the Elf asked why it was the government had still not removed any of the old EU laws. After all, he pointed out, there were plenty of such laws that we had opposed or criticised at the time they were placed upon us. When would they go, or would they be improved? "Well," said the Chancellor, "it's not that easy, you know. Of course, we are committed to tidying up, repealing a bit here and amending a bit there. But we are finding it very difficult to get agreement. Lots of officials tell us we should not deviate too far. The House of Lords doesn't like it. They point out that business gets along with it all, now it's embedded, even if they didn't like the new laws at the time. I think many are worried by the way that whatever we do, if we take the EU's view of the Northern Ireland Protocol, all the EU laws would still have to apply there anyway. So, said the elf, when can I spread some Brexit cheer by singing aloud for all to hear that EU laws are a-changing? Well, said the Chancellor, we're working on it. Watch out for any consultations we might announce. We want to take it gently, feel our way forwards. A bit dispirited, the elf decided to take himself to the Treasury. Now, it isn't normally the place you go to raise your sugar levels or get excited, but his boss is a well-known Brexit supporter who surely would want to implement the true Brexit. The elf asked him why the UK economy was still being run under a version of the old Maastricht austerity rules. No, said the other Chancellor, that surely was not true. We now had a shiny new economic framework suited just to the UK. In that case, said the elf, who knew a thing or two about economics, why are you still reporting UK figures against the Maastricht Treaty state debt and deficit requirements? Oh, that must be a mistake, came the reply. I'll get them to stop that. Even if you do, said the elf, you still have as rules the need to get the running deficit down to below 3%, just as the EU told us, and the need to get state debt falling as a percentage of GDP, just like the EU told us. Oh, said the Chancellor, that's just a coincidence. This is now a UK policy. Well, said the elf, I would like us to have a pro-growth policy and a counter-inflation policy, not a spending cuts and tax rises austerity EU policy. The Chancellor was a very busy man. He ran out of time to pursue all this. The elf had wanted to ask him why he hadn't even taken VAT off green products, but apparently the meeting was over. The elf just liked to smile and get on with things. So he went off to the Environment and Agriculture Department, where there could be so many Brexit wins. He asked the Environment Secretary if he believed in the true Brexit. Yes, of course, he beamed. He'd been a leading Brexit supporter. So encouraged, the elf asked, when would we have full control of all our fishing grounds? He was told that was still in transition, but the plan was to make them ours in due course. He asked why we'd given so many fishing licenses to French boats to come into our waters, and was told that was to get on well with the neighbours. The elf asked why the French were not then happy with us, why were they still protesting, but there was no reply. He asked why we had not banned the very damaging super trawlers, all foreign, of over 100 metres in length, that came in to pillage our stocks and damaged our marine environment. There was no clear response. He asked why the replacement for the Common Agricultural Policy mainly would give money to farmers to stop farming and to turn their land over to wilderness. What is more vulnerable than a peach, asked the elf, or an English apple? Wasn't it going to be just like the EU grant scheme, to get us to grub up our orchards so that we imported apples and peaches and everything else from the continent? How did that help the world environment with all those extra food miles? And why did we want to destroy our very own industry? Again, he did not understand the reasons, which were all about public goods and seemed very abstract. Let down again, the elf took himself off to the Foreign Office. He was worried here because the Foreign Secretary hadn't been keen on leaving the European Union. She immediately sought to reassure him that she had seen the light and, like him, now wanted the true Brexit. However, it soon became clear that although she was Foreign Secretary, she did not seem to handle the crucial talks with the EU or with France and could not help bring about his vision. Back to reality, he took himself off to the Northern Ireland Department. The Secretary of State there told him that he believed in the true Brexit, though he had not at the time of the referendum. The elf wanted to know why Brexit did not extend to Northern Ireland, and why the so-called protocol was causing so much angst. Why did all those EU laws still apply in Northern Ireland? Well, said the secretary, it is very complex. I tend to leave sorting it all out to Lord Frost, who tells me he's well advanced with his work on it. The elf painted a picture of a butterfly in the meeting, as the meeting wasn't going anywhere. He decided to make one last call on business and energy. Surely here there would be buzzing anticipation of a better future, as they use the new freedoms to advance UK prosperity. After all, they had a great success for the UK, developing its own vaccine for the virus, when the EU's common system failed to build one. So the elf asked the business secretary when the UK was going to be self-sufficient in energy once again. He was told that would not happen, as they intended to rely more and more on imports through pipes and cables to the continent as part of their domestic net zero policy. Far better, they thought, that the carbon dioxide should be generated somewhere else. By this time, he was a very angry elf, just as even he was losing his smile and his belief in the true Brexit. The British people spoke to him. "Cheer up, young elf," they said. "You are right. Brexit teems with opportunities. We will tell Whitehall again that that is what they have to do. We will make them find the true spirit of Brexit, so you can smile and sing about it to your heart's content. Only a bad Santa tells you Remain were right all along. We know they are wrong, and we will make sure all those departments that have been so unhelpful come to assist. If they don't, we will vote again to make our intentions clear. Does someone need a hug? Brexit is about cheer and optimism, to cast aside the dour-grey commands of the old Remain establishment. You are not only right, young elf, but we will win."